The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest building ever made by any species in known space. It floated in orbit around a dead star, far from any world. A place where all the powerful races came to talk and make decisions. 300 species sent their leaders here. They made laws. They decided who could expand and who could not. They controlled everything. High Arbiter Zolkon of the Veluxy hegemony stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. His people had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall like waves on a beach. They had crushed rebellions and ended wars. They feared nothing. But today, Zolkon was afraid. He hid it well, but the fear was there. Deep in his chest, on the holographic display before him, a small blue planet rotated slowly. Earth, home of humanity. Capital of the Terran Empire. The humans have ignored our warnings, Zolkon announced. His voice echoed through the vast chamber. They continue to grow. They take new worlds without permission. They build weapons we have forbidden. They refuse to accept their place. Ambassador Catherine Moore stood alone at the small podium reserved for young species. She was 53 years old, with gray-streaked hair and tired eyes. She wore the dark blue uniform of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. Behind her, the seats meant for humanity's allies were empty. Humanity had no allies. Catherine had spent 30 years trying to build bridges with the other species. 30 years of smiling at creatures who looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. 30 years of being patient, polite, and ignored. Today, she knew patience would not be enough. The Council has been generous, Zolkon continued. We gave humanity 17 star systems. We allowed them to build a small fleet. We offered to guide their development. But they have rejected our help. They have chosen defiance. Catherine wanted to speak, but she knew better. In this hall, young species spoke only when asked. Those were the rules. Therefore, the High Arbiter declared, the Galactic Council issues this ultimatum to the Terran Empire. The chamber fell completely silent. Every representative leaned forward. First, humanity will stop all expansion immediately. Second, humanity will reduce its military forces by 70%. Third, humanity will accept oversight of all technology development. Fourth, humanity will transfer control of its outer colonies to Council protection. Gasps echoed through the hall. This was not a warning. This was a demand for surrender. You have 30 standard days to comply, Zolkon finished. If you refuse, the full military power of the Council will be used against you. This session is ended. Catherine remained at her podium as the other representatives filed out. Some looked at her with pity. Others looked at her with contempt. A few looked almost sad, as if watching a condemned prisoner. Her communicator buzzed. She looked at the message and felt her heart drop. It was from Fleet Admiral Samuel Drake. It said only, "Come home now." The Emperor is waiting. She left the hall without looking back. The journey to Earth took 18 hours through 7 jump gates. Catherine did not sleep. She sat in her small cabin, staring at the stars rushing past. Thinking about what she would tell the Emperor, she thought about the numbers. The Council could send 12,000 warships against Earth. Humanity had 800. The math was simple and terrible. She thought about the people back home. The farmers on the colony worlds, the workers in the orbital factories, the children in schools across 17 systems. They did not know what was coming. She thought about history. Humanity had reached the stars only 97 years ago. In that short time, they had grown from 1 world to 17. They had built cities on distant planets. They had created wonders that amazed even the ancient species, and now it might all end. When her ship finally docked at Geneva Station above Earth, a military escort was waiting. They took her directly to the Emperor's private shuttle, which flew down through the clouds to the capital city. Emperor William Carter II waited in his private study. He was 61 years old, with broad shoulders and gray eyes that had seen much. He had led humanity for 23 years, through good times and bad. He was not a man who scared easily. Sit down, Catherine, he said. Tell me everything. Catherine sat. She told him about the ultimatum. She told him about the United Council, the assembled fleet, the impossible odds. She told him what she had seen in the eyes of the other species. Not hatred, but fear. They are afraid of us, she said. That is what I do not understand. We are small. We are young. We have done nothing to threaten them. Why are they so afraid? William was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it was not a happy smile. They are afraid because they see what we might become, he said. Every other species in the galaxy has accepted limits. They grow to a certain size and then stop. They reach a certain level of technology and then stop. They follow the rules the council makes. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Geneva sparkled in the darkness. But we do not stop, he continued. We never stop. We always want more. We always push further. And that terrifies them. So what do? Catherine asked. We cannot fight 12,000 ships. No, William agreed. We cannot. Not with normal methods. He turned to face her. His eyes were hard now, filled with determination. 30 years ago, when I was young, my father told me something I have never forgotten. He said that humanity's greatest weapon is not our ships or our soldiers. It is our refusal to accept defeat. He said that, as long as one human still fights, humanity is not beaten. Pretty words, Catherine said quietly. But words do not stop warships. No, they do not. William pressed a button on his desk. But courage and cleverness sometimes do. The door opened, and Admiral Samuel Drake walked in. He was a lean man with dark skin and gray hair, wearing the white uniform of the Terran Navy. Admiral, the Emperor said, begin mobilization. Full war footing across all systems. Yes, Your Majesty. Drake's voice was calm, but Catherine could see the fire in his eyes. And the special projects? Activate all of them. We have 30 days to prepare. Drake nodded and left. Catherine stared at the Emperor. What special projects? William smiled again, and this time there was something dangerous in it. Did you really think we never prepared for this day? We have known for decades that the Council would eventually come for us. We have been getting ready, quietly, secretly, building things they do not know about. He walked back to his desk and sat down. They gave us an ultimatum. They expect us to surrender or die. But they have made a terrible mistake. What mistake? William leaned forward. They have given us 30 days. And in 30 days, we are going to show them exactly what humanity can do when our survival is at stake. The Council thinks they are hunting a small, weak animal. They are about to discover they have woken a sleeping giant. Catherine felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. What do you need from me? She asked. Go back to your quarters. Rest. Tomorrow, you will begin a new mission. We need time, and you are going to help us get it. Catherine stood and bowed. Yes, Your Majesty. As she walked out, she heard the Emperor speaking into his communicator. Connect me to all system governors. Emergency priority. The Terran Empire is going to war. 23 days remained before the Council's deadline. In the orbital shipyards above Mars, something massive was taking shape. Workers moved across its skeleton like ants on a fallen tree. Welding torches flashed in the darkness of space. Transport ships carried metal plates, power cables, and weapon systems to be fitted into place. Chief Engineer Patricia Dunn walked through the construction site, checking everything. She was 44 years old, with red hair turning gray and hands rough from years of hard work. She had built ships her entire life. Small fighters, medium cruisers, even a few battleships, but nothing like this. The ship was called Project Titan. It was 3 kilometers long. It's bigger than anything humanity had ever built. Its main weapon was a particle beam that ran the entire length of the ship. Its armor was thick enough to survive hits that would destroy normal vessels. Its engines could push it faster than ships half its size. Under normal circumstances, it would take 3 years to finish. Patricia had been given 3 weeks. The reactor housing is complete, said Kevin Shaw, her young assistant. But the power systems still need work. If we rush, we do not rush, Patricia interrupted. We work fast, but we do not cut corners. This ship needs to fight, not fall apart. She looked at the construction schedule on her tablet. Every section was behind. They did not have enough workers. They did not have enough materials. They did not have enough time. But Patricia had never failed a job in her life. She was not going to start now. Get me 50 more workers from the Luna shipyards, she ordered. Tell them it is a direct order from me. Director Collins already said no. Patricia smiled coldly. Then tell Director Collins that if he does not send those workers, he will be cleaning toilets on the outer colonies for the rest of his life. Kevin hurried away to send the message. Patricia turned back to watch the workers. Somewhere out there, 12,000 enemy ships were getting ready to destroy her world. This ship might be humanity's best chance to stop them. She would make sure it was ready, far from Mars. Past the orbits of all the planets, there was a small research station. Hidden in the darkness. It had no name, only a number. Very few people knew it existed. Dr. Helen Park lived on that station. She was 39 years old, small and thin, with the look of someone whose mind was always somewhere else. She was one of the smartest people in the Terran Empire, an expert on physics that most people could not even understand. For 10 years, she had been working on a secret project. A project that could change everything. The Galactic Council controlled all travel between stars. They had built the jump gates that let ships move instantly across light years. Every species that wanted to travel had to use their gates, follow their rules, pay their fees. Helen was trying to build humanity's own jump technology. If she succeeded, humanity would no longer depend on the Council. They could go anywhere, escape from any trap, strike at any target. The Council's greatest advantage would be gone, if she failed. Her equations might tear a hole in space that would destroy the station and everyone on it. Run the simulation again, she told her assistant. Dr. Christopher Bell. Helen, we have run it 40 times. The math is correct. Run it again. Christopher sighed, but did as she asked. Numbers scrolled across the screen. Graphs formed and reformed. The computer checked every calculation. Results are the same, he said finally. The theory is sound. We need to build the actual device and test it. Helen stared at the equations floating in the air around her. 10 years of work. Thousands of calculations. And now, with the enemy fleet coming, she had to trust that she had not made any mistakes. Begin building the prototype, she said quietly. We test in 2 weeks. Christopher nodded and went to give the orders. Helen stayed in her lab, alone with her numbers. So much depended on her being right. If she was wrong, humanity would pay the price. On Earth? Deep beneath the old city of Geneva, the War Council met in a bunker carved from solid rock. The Emperor sat at the head of a long table. Around him were the most important people in the Terran Empire, admirals, generals, scientists, and factory owners. The enemy fleet is gathering in the Veloxy home system, Admiral Drake reported. They have 8,000 ships now, with more arriving every day. Our best guess is they will have 12,000 when they attack. Can we stop them? The Emperor asked. Drake was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. Not in a straight fight. They outnumber us 15-1. We could hurt them badly, but we would lose. Then we do not fight straight, said General Angela Cruz. She commanded all ground forces in the Empire. Her face bore scars from many battles. We hit their supply lines. We attack their bases. We make them afraid to sleep at night. That will buy time, Drake said. But not victory. What about Project Titan? The Emperor asked. A hologram of Patricia Dunn appeared at the end of the table. The ship will be ready in 18 days. It will be powerful, but it cannot defeat 12,000 ships alone. And the jump project? Helen Park's image appeared next to Patricia's. We are close. Maybe 2 weeks until we can test it? I believe it will work, but I cannot promise anything. The Emperor looked around the table at all the faces. These were humanity's best people. They had worked their whole lives for this moment. We have always been outnumbered, he said slowly. From the first day we left Earth, the galaxy has tried to hold us back. They think we are weak because we are young. They think we will break because we are small. He stood up and everyone rose with him. They are wrong. Humans have never surrendered to anyone. We fought through ice ages. We survived plagues that killed millions. We crossed oceans and deserts, and finally, the empty void of space itself. We did not come this far to kneel before creatures who think they are our masters. His voice grew stronger. In 30 days, they want an answer to their ultimatum. We will give them an answer. Not with words, but with fire and steel. We will show them what happens when you threaten humanity. And if we fail? Drake asked softly. The Emperor met his eyes. Then we fail fighting. We fail with our heads held high. We fail in a way that the galaxy will remember forever. But I do not plan to fail. He turned to the assembled council. You have your orders. Build the ships. Train the soldiers. Prepare the weapons. In 30 days, we go to war. The council members left one by one to begin their work. Only Admiral Drake remained. There is something else, he said. Something not in the official reports? Tell me. Our spies report that not all council species support this ultimatum. Some voted against it. Some are afraid of what will happen if the war goes badly. The Emperor nodded slowly. You think we might find allies? No, but I think we might find cracks. Weaknesses we can use. Species that might stay out of the fight if things get ugly. Then use those weaknesses. Do whatever you need to do. Drake bowed and left. The Emperor stood alone in the bunker, thinking about what was coming. 12,000 ships. Millions of enemy soldiers. The combined might of 300 species against 17 systems and 800 ships. The odds were impossible. Any reasonable person would surrender. But Emperor William Carter was not interested in being reasonable. He was interested in winning. He walked to the communications panel and began sending orders. Across the Terran Empire, factories that had been sleeping came to life. Secret bases opened their doors. Soldiers who had been training for years learned that their time had finally come. The storm was gathering, and Earth was getting ready to fight back. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system on the 30th day. They came out of the Great Jump Gate near Neptune, 12,000 warships appearing from nothing in a flash of blue light. Their formations stretched across millions of kilometers of empty space. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. High Commander Vorthax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. He was a Kreth, a species of tall reptiles with thick scales and powerful jaws. The Kreth had been warriors for 100,000 years. They had crushed countless enemies. They had never lost a war. Vorthax looked at the tactical display and smiled. Earth was 40 hours away. The human fleet was small and pitiful. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. Ordered the fleet to advance, he commanded. Standard attack formation. His tactical officer, a young Kreth named Selther, looked at his screens. Commander, there is unusual activity in the inner system. The humans appear to be moving. Vorthax laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. Let them move. What can 800 ships do against 12,000? They will see reason soon enough. The fleet began its slow advance toward Earth. Admiral Samuel. Drake watched the enemy fleet from the bridge of the Indomitable. His officers worked in silence around him, tracking the massive force that was coming to destroy their home. All ships report ready, his tactical officer announced. 412 ships in the home defense fleet. And the special units? In position, Admiral? Waiting for orders. Drake nodded. The Emperor's plan was either brilliant or insane. Probably both, but they had no choice. Conventional defense was impossible. Their only hope was to do things the enemy did not expect. Open a channel to the enemy flagship, he ordered. The holographic display flickered, and High Commander Vorthax appeared. His reptilian face twisted into what might have been amusement. Admiral Drake, are you calling to surrender? The Council's terms are still... I am calling to give you a warning, Drake interrupted. Turn your fleet around. Leave our space. This is your only chance. Vorthax stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed again. Mercy? You offer mercy when you have 400 ships against 12,000. Human arrogance truly has no limits. You have been warned, Drake said calmly. What happens next is your own fault. He cut the transmission. His tactical officer looked uncertain. Admiral? Drake took a deep breath. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. All units begin the attack. The first strike did not hit the enemy fleet. It hit their supplies 3 light-years away in the Veluxy home system. 12 Terran stealth ships suddenly appeared around the Council's main supply depot. The station was huge, filled with fuel and ammunition and spare parts for the invasion fleet. It was supposed to be safe, far from any battlefield. Protected by the full power of the Council, Commander Nicole Adams led the attack from her ship, the Shadow's Edge. She was 36 years old. A special operations officer who had trained her whole life for missions exactly like this. All ships. Fire, she ordered. Missiles and energy beams struck the station from every direction. Its defenses were designed for pirates, not a coordinated military assault. Explosions tore through its hull. Fuel tanks burst into flames. Ammunition stores cooked off in chains of destruction. In 4 minutes, the station was a spreading cloud of burning debris. Target destroyed, her tactical officer reported. Enemy ships incoming, 3 minutes out. Then we leave in 2. All ships, emergency jump. The Terran ships vanished into jump space before the enemy could respond. Behind them, they left the ruins of the Council's logistics network. At the same time, on the other side of the Council fleet, a different kind of attack was happening. Lieutenant Commander Gregory Stone sat in the cockpit of a tiny stealth shuttle, watching a massive Kreth dreadnought through his view screen. Behind him, 24 Terran Special Forces soldiers waited in full combat gear. We are going in through that maintenance hatch, yes. Aide, pointing at a small opening on the enemy ship's hull. Our hackers have disabled the security systems. We get in, plant our bombs, and get out. Simple. One of his soldiers snorted. Nothing about this is simple, sir. Greg smiled. That is why they send us. The shuttle drifted closer, matching the dreadnought's speed exactly. They attached to the hull and cut through the hatch. One by one, the soldiers climbed into the enemy ship. Inside, the corridors were dark and warm. The Kreth liked heat. Greg led his team through service tunnels, avoiding the crew. Moving toward their target, the main reactor, they reached the reactor room in 20 minutes. The guards there never saw them coming. The soldiers planted their explosives on the critical systems. 60 seconds, the demolition expert whispered. Fall back to the shuttle. Move. They ran through the corridors back the way they came. Behind them, the timer counted down. They reached the shuttle with seconds to spare. As they detached from the hull and flew away, the dreadnought shuddered. Then its entire rear section exploded, the reactor tearing itself apart. 1 down, Greg reported via secure transmission. 11,999 to go, across the Sol system and beyond. Similar attacks were happening everywhere. Terran stealth ships struck shipyards in Council space. Special Forces teams sabotaged communication relays. Assassins killed enemy officers in their beds. Computer viruses corrupted navigation systems. Supply convoys vanished without a trace. The humans had been preparing for this war for decades. They had placed agents and weapons throughout Council territory, waiting for this moment, on the bridge of the eternal conquest. High Commander Vorthax watched the reports come in with growing disbelief. 3 dreadnoughts destroyed by infiltrators. The main supply depot gone. Shipyards burning in 6 systems. Communication networks failing across the fleet. Selther demanded. They only have 800 ships. They cannot be everywhere. Vorthax understood now. The humans had not been waiting passively for their doom. They had been preparing, planning, placing pieces on a board that covered the entire galaxy. It does not matter, he growled, trying to sound confident. We still outnumber them. We still have the power to crush them. Continue the advance. But a cold feeling had settled in his stomach, a feeling he had never experienced before in his long career of conquest. It was fear in the inner Sol system. The Terran Navy was forming up around their new flagship. The Prometheus had launched from Mars 2 days early, its construction crews working around the clock to finish the job. It was not perfect. Some systems were still being calibrated. Some weapons had never been tested, but it was ready to fight. Captain Derek Morrison stood on its bridge, looking at the tactical display. 400 Terran ships had gathered around him, the entire home defense fleet. Ahead of them, the Council Armada was getting closer every hour. "They will reach us in 18 hours, his tactical officer reported. "Then we have 18 hours to prepare." Derek looked at his crew. They were young, most of them. They had joined the Navy hoping to explore, to discover, to build. Instead, they would fight the greatest battle in human history. "I know you are scared," he said. "I am scared too. But remember what we are fighting for. Our homes. Our families. Our species. The Council thinks they can take that from us. We are going to prove them wrong." Message came through from Admiral Drake on the Indomitable. "All ships, this is the Admiral. In 18 hours, we meet the enemy. In 18 hours, we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. Our ancestors crossed oceans in wooden boats. They conquered the sky with paper and cloth. They reached for the stars with nothing but courage and determination. We carry that spirit with us today." His voice hardened. "The enemy thinks this will be easy. They think we will break. They have no idea what they are facing. Now, get some rest. Tomorrow, we fight." Across the fleet, crews checked their weapons one last time. They wrote letters to loved ones. They looked at pictures of families they might never see again, and they prepared to meet the storm. The Battle of Earth began at 6 in the morning. Terran Standard Time, the Council fleet emerged from its final approach in perfect formation. 12,000 warships spread across space like a wall of steel and fire, their weapons charged. Their targeting systems locked onto the tiny human fleet ahead. High Commander Vorthax stood on his bridge, watching the display with satisfaction. Despite the losses from human raids, he still had overwhelming numbers. This battle would end the war before it truly began. "All ships prepare to engage," he ordered. "Destroy their fleet. Then we take their planet." The first shot came from the humans. The Prometheus had been waiting for this moment. Its main weapon, a particle beam running the entire length of its 3-kilometer hull, fired for the first time in combat. The beam was so bright it could be seen from Earth's surface. A lance of pure energy cutting across the darkness. It struck the center of the Council formation. 3 ships simply vanished, turned to vapor in an instant. A dozen more lost their shields, their armor melting, their systems failing. Debris and bodies scattered across space. Before the Council could respond, Admiral Drake gave his order. "All ships attack." The Terran Navy did not form a defensive line. They did not wait for the enemy to come to them. They charged. 400 ships surged forward at full speed, diving straight into the Council formation. They were smaller than most enemy vessels, faster and more agile. They slipped between the larger ships, firing at point-blank range, targeting engines and weapons systems. The Council fleet had never seen anything like this. Their tactics were built around massive ships forming organized lines, trading fire across great distances. The humans were inside their formation, too close for their heavy weapons. Moving too fast to track, chaos erupted across the battlefield. On the Eternal Conquest, Vorthax watched his tactical display turn from green to red. Ships were dying all around him. His carefully organized fleet was dissolving into a confused melee. "All ships, engage at will." He shouted, "Destroy them." But it was not that simple. The human ships were everywhere, weaving between his vessels, using larger Kreth ships as shields against their own allies' fire. Missiles crisscrossed the void. Energy beams carved through armor. Nuclear explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. The Prometheus was at the center of the storm. Captain Derek Morrison commanded from his bridge, directing his ship through the battle with cold precision. "Target that dreadnought," he ordered. "Main gun, fire." The particle beam lanced out again, coring through a Veluxy battleship. The enemy vessel broke apart, its reactor exploding, taking a nearby cruiser with it. Enemy fighters incoming. Port side. Point defense systems engage. Maintain course. The great ship shuddered as enemy fire struck its armor. But the armor held. Patricia Dunn had built well. Across the battlefield, smaller Terran ships were paying a heavy price. The cruiser Relentless took a direct hit and broke apart. The destroyer Valiant sacrificed itself to protect a damaged transport. The frigate Columbia fought until its last weapon fell silent. But for every Terran ship that died, 3 or 4 Council ships died with them. Admiral Drake watched the numbers on his display. They were losing ships faster than the enemy in pure numbers, but the ratio was far better than anyone had expected. The Council had thought they would crush humanity in hours. Now, 6 hours into the battle, they had lost over 1,000 ships. "Press the attack," he ordered. "Do not give them time to reorganize." The human fleet surged forward again, pushing deeper into the enemy formation. On the far side of the solar system, at the hidden research station, Dr. Helen Park watched the battle through long-range sensors. She could see the flashes of explosions, the dying ships, the desperate struggle for survival, and she knew she could change everything. "The jump drive is ready," Christopher told her. "We can activate it at any time." Helen looked at her creation. The massive ring filled the cargo bay, humming with power. Through its center, she could see the shimmer of bent space, waiting to be opened. If it worked, humanity would have their own way to travel the stars. They could escape, regroup, strike back from anywhere. The Council's greatest advantage would be gone. If it failed, everyone on the station would die. "Open a channel to the Emperor," she said. William Carter's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired, worried, watching reports from the battle that was deciding humanity's fate. "Your Majesty," Helen said, "the jump drive is ready. We need to test it now. If it works, we can change the entire war." The Emperor was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. "Do it." "And Dr. Park, thank you. Whatever happens, thank you." Helen turned to her team. "Begin activation sequence." Power surged through the ring. The shimmer at its center grew brighter, stronger. Alarms wailed as reality itself bent under the strain. "Field stability at 90%, Christopher called out. 95. 98. The ring blazed with blue light. Space folded. And suddenly, through the center of the ring, Helen could see different stars. "Stars for light years away? Works," she whispered. "It actually works. It's connection stable," Christopher confirmed. "We have a functioning jump point." Helen allowed herself one moment of pure joy. Then she straightened and became a scientist again. "Begin construction of a permanent gate. And send word to the fleet. We have just given humanity a future." Back at the battle, things were changing. High Commander Vorthax had finally managed to reorganize his fleet. He pulled his ships back, forming a defensive sphere, bringing his heavy weapons to bear. The human tactic of close combat was less effective against a prepared formation, but the humans had already done tremendous damage. Over 2,000 Council ships were destroyed or disabled. The fleet that had seemed unstoppable now looked wounded. "We still have 10,000 ships," Vorthax reminded his officers. "They have maybe 300 left. We can still win this." He was right about the numbers. Wrong about what those numbers meant, Admiral. Drake received the message about the jump drive at the same moment as the Emperor. For the first time in the battle, he smiled. "All ships, fall back to Rally Point Alpha," he ordered. "Prepare for Phase 2. The human fleet disengaged, pulling away from the Council formation. They had lost over 100 ships. They had destroyed 2,000 enemies, and now they had something more valuable than any weapon. They had options. The Council fleet did not pursue. They had learned to be careful of human tricks. Instead, they reformed and continued their advance toward Earth, more slowly now. Watching for ambushes, as they moved, word spread through the fleet about what was happening. The humans had their own jump technology. The humans had been striking deep into Council territory. The humans were not afraid, for the first time in 10,000 years. Species that had thought themselves invincible began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, the population watched the battle through satellite feeds. They saw their navy fighting against impossible odds. They saw ships die and heroes fall. They saw that their defenders were not giving up in cities across the planet. People gathered in streets and parks, watching screens, holding their breath. When word came of the jump drive, cheers erupted. When word came that the enemy had stopped advancing, hope began to bloom. Emperor William Carter addressed the planet. Today our sons and daughters have shown the galaxy who we are. We are not victims. We are not slaves. We are humanity, and we do not surrender. The battle is not over. We have lost friends and family. We have more fighting ahead. But today, we have proven that we can win. He paused, his eyes hard. The council thought they could frighten us with numbers. They thought we would bow to their power. They were wrong. And now, they will pay for that mistake. Across the Terran Empire, in every system, people heard those words, and they believed them. The tide was turning. The Battle of Earth lasted 73 hours, when it finally ended. The Council fleet had been reduced to fewer than 4,000 ships. They hung in space, battered and broken, their formations shattered, their morale destroyed. The Terran Navy had lost over half its strength, but the remaining ships still flew, still fought, still refused to give up. High Commander Vorkax sat alone on the bridge of the Eternal Conquest, staring at the tactical display that showed his defeat. Around him, his officers worked in silence, afraid to speak. The greatest fleet in galactic history had been stopped by a species that should have. It's been conquered in days, the communication panel chimed. It was Admiral Drake, calling from the Indomitable. High Commander, Drake said calmly. Your fleet is beaten. Your supply lines are cut. Your reinforcements are not coming because we destroyed the gates they would have used. You have two choices: surrender and withdraw, or continue fighting and die. Vorthax looked at the humans on his screen. They were tired, wounded, their ships showing the scars of battle, but they were not broken. They would keep fighting until the last ship, the last soldier, the last breath. He closed his eyes. He thought of all the wars his people had won, all the species they had crushed, all the glory they had earned through conquest. None of it mattered now. We accept your terms, he said, each word like a knife in his chest. All Council forces will withdraw from soul space. We acknowledge humanity's right to exist as an independent power. The transmission ended. Vorthax gave the order for retreat. One by one, his surviving ships turned away from Earth and began the long journey home. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People poured into the streets, crying and laughing and hugging strangers. In Geneva, church bells rang for the first time in years. In New York and Tokyo and Cairo and Sydney, celebrations erupted that would last for days. Humanity had won. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Over 400 ships had been destroyed. Tens of thousands of sailors had died. Families across the empire had lost sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters. In the orbital shipyards above Mars, Patricia Dunn walked through the empty construction bays. Most of her workers had volunteered to serve on ships during the battle. Many of them had not come back. She found a quiet spot near a viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council fleet was retreating. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that humanity was not to be underestimated. We did it, she whispered to the friends who were gone. We actually did it. The research station beyond Pluto. Helen Park watched the first permanent jump gate complete its final tests. Ships were already lined up to use it, eager to explore a galaxy that was suddenly open to them. Christopher stood beside her. So what happens now? Helen smiled. Everything changes. We are not trapped anymore. We can go anywhere, do anything. The Council cannot control us because they cannot catch us. They will try again. They will not accept this. Let them try, Helen said. We will be ready. 3 months after the battle, a new session of the Galactic Council convened. The Great Hall was the same as always, vast and ancient and filled with representatives of 300 species. But the atmosphere was different now. The arrogance was gone. In its place was uncertainty, even fear. Ambassador Catherine Moore walked to the podium. The seats behind her were no longer empty. Representatives of 12 species sat there, species that had broken from the Council to ally with humanity. More were negotiating. The galaxy was changing. The Terran Empire comes before this council, not as a conquered people, but as equals, Catherine announced. We have proven that we will defend ourselves. We have proven that we will not be controlled. Now we offer something better than war. She looked around the chamber at the faces watching her. Some were hostile. Some were curious. Some were almost hopeful. We offer trade. We offer cooperation. We offer the chance to build a galaxy where every species can reach its full potential, without artificial limits, without forced submission. Join us, and we will grow together. Oppose us, and we will defend ourselves again. Hi, Arbiter Zolkon rose from his seat. He looked older than before, his 4 eyes tired and sad. The Council acknowledges the Terran Empire as a sovereign power, he said formally. We accept your offer of peaceful relations. The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives were angry. Others were relieved. A few were already calculating how to profit from this new reality. Catherine allowed herself a small smile. It was not complete victory. The galaxy was still dangerous. There would be more challenges ahead. But humanity had earned its place among the stars. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Samuel Drake retired from the Navy. He was 60 years old, tired from a lifetime of service, ready for peace. He bought a small house on an island in Earth's Pacific Ocean. He spent his days fishing, reading, watching the waves roll in and out. At night, he sat on his porch and watched the stars. Sometimes visitors came. Young officers seeking advice, old friends sharing memories, historians asking questions about the war. One evening, Patricia Dunn came to visit. They sat together as the sun set, sharing a bottle of wine. Do you ever think about it? She asked. The battle? The people we lost? Samuel nodded slowly. Every day. Every night. I see their faces when I close my eyes. Was it worth it? He thought about the question for a long time. He thought about the sailors who had died under his command. The ships that would never sail again. The families who would never be whole. He thought about the billions of people on Earth who were free because of those sacrifices. The children who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity stood tall. The future that had been won with blood and courage. Yes, he said finally. It was worth it. We gave humanity a chance. Whatever happens next, we earn the right to face it on our own terms. Patricia raised her glass. To those who gave everything. Samuel raised his own. To those who gave everything, they drank in silence as the stars came out, one by one. Marking the vast empire that humanity had won, Emperor William Carter died peacefully in his sleep 5 years after the war, surrounded by family and friends. His son took the throne and continued his father's work, building alliances, expanding trade, strengthening the empire. The Galactic Council never tried to attack humanity again. Some of its members became close partners with the Terran Empire. Others kept their distance but maintained peaceful relations. The galaxy slowly adjusted to a new reality, one where a young species from a small planet had earned its place among the ancient powers. Dr. Helen? Park won every scientific prize that existed. Her jump technology revolutionized travel across the galaxy, ending the Council's monopoly forever. She lived to be 97 years old, spending her final years teaching young scientists the principles she had discovered. Ambassador. Catherine Moore served humanity for Anno.